what are my body's sensations? What's my body telling me? And then you never have to restrict your food. You can enjoy it, but do it from a place of connection and trust, and your body can get healthier in an indulgent way that feels like freedom. Welcome to the Mastering Mindfulness Institute. Here, we explore how food can become your greatest teacher and your body can become your wisest guide. I'm your host, Gina Warfel, helping you build a deeper connection with your food and body. Let's begin our journey together. Hey, welcome back. This conversation today might be for you if you're one of my friends out there who say, I can't just take one bite of a cookie and leave it and be done. As soon as I take one bite, I am going to eat a bunch of them. So I'd rather just not eat any at all. I totally get that. And I want to tell you a really interesting story kind of related to that, because I was very, very much like that I just got to keep those temptations out of the house, out of sight, out of mind, because I just don't trust myself. As soon as I take a bite, I'm going to eat a whole bunch of them. But what was interesting is recently I went on a little road trip with my mom. I was visiting my mom in Michigan, and my mom and my sister and some of my mom's friends, we were doing a little road trip to Traverse City, Michigan. It's about an hour and a half car ride. And my mom puts this tray of gluten-free brownies and banana bread right in between me and her friend for the car ride for us to all snack on. And normally this would probably have given me so much anxiety. And so everyone's like grabbing their banana bread and their brownies. And I took a few bites and I was like, okay, I feel good. And I set it down and I was like, I'll save that for later. And then I was like, whoa, look at me. That was so effortless. I never used to be able to do that. Like, oh my gosh. And so I find these little life moments of where we see this shift happen to be so interesting. And I want to break down what I learned from this moment and how my life was so different in the past that I used to not be able to take a bite of anything sweet or indulgent because I would eat so much until I would feel sick. And so I really got curious and studied what were the main differences? What did I need to do to get to this place to where it felt natural and effortless? I wasn't willpowering or fighting or thinking, no, don't have it, or counting calories. I just took a few bites, set it down, and saved it for later on in the day. So I love really unpacking these ordinary moments, because sometimes I talk about all these high level strategies and stuff, but it's in these little tiny micro moments that matter. And I think sometimes we get too caught up with the big end result or reaching a destination. But what happens in these real moments of when someone sets a tray of brownies right next to you and you're like, what do I do now? So I want to compare the differences. In the past, I had a lot of fear and scarcity, all or nothing mindset. And I think that mindset alone was really setting me up to fail. So when I would have this mindset that I was either eating good or eating bad, as soon as I had a bite of something bad, I switched from being in the good category to the bad category. And once I was already in the bad category, that's where I would start to have those thoughts like, oh, well, you already messed up. You might as well just really enjoy it. And that is actually what created, I think it propelled forward a lot of my need to overeat, to not just eat one cookie, but to eat 10 cookies or whatever it was. I think it was the all or nothing mindset that was like, oh, well, you already messed up, that was actually causing me to sabotage myself. When you have an all or nothing mindset, you start to create a lot of fear and scarcity that once I have a bite, that's bad, so I shouldn't. And so there you go into this fear of I won't be able to have it. And, it's like the laws of the universe or whatever. I don't know if I'd say it's a law of the universe, but it's like the law of whatever that is, that you want what you can't have. And so the more that we start saying, I can't have this, I shouldn't have this, the more we start to fixate it on it and want it. And what's so interesting, I interviewed one of my students. She was a former student, Valeria, and she did Mastering Mindfulness. And she said, I told myself I couldn't have ice cream. And I was so fixated on the ice cream And then once I gave myself permission and I let go of that all or nothing mindset, she goes, I realized I was eating it just because I couldn't have it or I craved it because I couldn't have it. Once I gave myself permission, I realized I don't like ice cream that much and I don't really want it anymore. So it's interesting. I interviewed her here on the podcast. She has such an amazing story full of so many insights and wisdom like that. Highly recommend if you haven't caught it. But there's so many moments like that that all of a sudden, when we create an all or nothing mindset of scarcity, we start wanting it and craving it. And just like, kids want what they can't have. Teenagers want to drink when they're not old enough, and then they're old enough and they don't care about it anymore. So it creates like an interesting psychological game with our own brains. What I realize is over the years, I worked really hard to let go of that all or nothing mindset. Now, I do really like to be healthy. I don't like just saying I can eat anything. Well, I do say I can eat anything, but I don't like to necessarily have a free for all and just eat a bunch of unhealthy food. But I do give myself permission that if I want to, I can, and it's not bad. And so I think letting go of the fear and scarcity is like if I take a bite that didn't put me into a bad category. And so I was no longer saying that phrase to myself, oh, well, you already messed up. You might as well just really enjoy it. It was like there was no more fear because I could have it anytime that I wanted. And I really think that mindset is really, really important. I think the all or nothing mindset, it feels safe and it feels secure. Like I'm giving myself rules and boundaries to keep me on track. But then as soon as you have a bite of something that's not on track, that's what propels the, oh, well, I already had it, or I want what I can't have, turns into a weird psychological game. So I really think over time, letting go of that mindset was a really big part of being like, I didn't mess up. There was nothing to mess up. I just had a bite and then I just moved on. Like I'm still quote unquote on track. There really is no track. There's no track. There's just life. There's just living. There's just a bite of the banana bread and then moving on. And that is so different from how I used to approach it, that I was on the plan or I sabotage my plan. And those hard boundaries creates a really weird psychological game with food. So lesson nugget number one, letting go of that all or nothing mindset was huge. Now, the second difference that I noticed was when I would be in that willpower battle of like, no, you shouldn't have another one, or you should, or you shouldn't. All of my attention was up in my mind when I was really struggling. So I would be so busy thinking about I should or I shouldn't have the cookie, or, oh, I know if I take one bite, I'll just lose control. And so all my attention was in my mind, battling between what was right and what was wrong. And this is like where cravings come from, is like up in our mind. Our brain is like safety mechanisms. And so if your attention is all up here, everything is going to be driven by cravings. And when you're battling your mind for right and wrong, you're in this like war, and it feels really hard, or at least it did for me. What I noticed this time when I ate the banana bread, I took a couple bites of it and I started to feel in my body, okay, this is the first thing that I've had to eat today. And I could almost like feel the sugar in my stomach. And I don't know if you've ever had something sweet in the morning instead of like a protein-based breakfast. You might notice you could feel like might not feel very good in your body. And that's how I felt. My attention was in my body and I was like, ooh, yeah, this feels like there's some sugar. And I had a matcha. It feels like there's caffeine. I feel like I actually need some more real food versus like a sweet banana bread. And so when I felt the sensations in my body and there was no longer any fear that I wouldn't be able to have it again, it was like, oh, eating more wouldn't feel good inside my body. And that didn't create a willpower battle. It didn't create a loss of control. It just felt very effortless to say, more wouldn't really feel good, and set it aside. And because I have no fear and scarcity, I can always have more later. So why do I need to overeat it now? And I think that day, I don't even think I ended up finishing it. I can't really remember, but I don't even think I ended up finishing it later because I just ended up feeling good. And to me, that is freedom. being able to say, I want a bite of this cookie. I want a bite or two of this banana bread or half of it. And when I get to the point to where it doesn't feel good to eat more in my body, I can easily stop and there's no fear and there's no scarcity. I believe that that is the path to our bodies getting healthier. What I noticed was that I struggled to get my body healthy when I gave myself a rule to not eat it, but then I would like binge on it when I would eat it. It was the under eat, overeat cycles that really took a toll on my body, and I felt restricted and then I felt guilty. So the black and white thinking of like, I can't have it, to me, it created the feeling of restriction and then guilt when I lost control. My body struggled to get healthy. When I give myself permission to actually indulge, but I practice tuning into my body, I live a much more indulgent life. I eat desserts. I could eat them every day if I want to eat it, but it doesn't stress me out anymore and my body stays in a naturally healthy place. Because now that I feel more in tune with my body, instead of battling the cravings and right and wrong in my mind, I trust myself that I can eat a little bit. And then when I feel like, okay, that's enough, then I can put it away. And my body stays in a pretty healthy place without extreme effort, without extreme restriction. And I know that can feel tough. Sometimes we're like, oh, well, it's easy for you. And I would say that it was not easy for me. Doing it the other way was very hard for me. I exercised a lot harder. I was going through those waves of controlling my food, trying to avoid temptations, but then eventually at some point losing control over them. That was a hard path. And so I just want to show you the contrast of what it is like when we live with our attention in our minds with right and wrong and rules and living in that all or nothing. And when we don't have rules and fear and scarcity, and we're in connection with our bodies and how food makes us feel. To me, this one feels like a prison. And to me, the other one feels like freedom. What I think is so fascinating about this is I thought that success looked like not eating the food, that that's what I was trying to achieve and get to. But I was wrong. I didn't have to get rid of the food. I just needed to change my self-trust with it. That I could eat some, trust how it felt in my body, and then be done with it. And I never had to get rid of the food or the temptation, and I could continuously get healthier. Now, I still like healthier versions because I like to care for my body. So we had like a gluten-free banana bread, and it was like relatively clean ingredients. I like that kind of stuff because I do genuinely like caring for my body. But we can indulge. And if avoiding temptations feels safe, maybe there's an opportunity to say, what would it look like to start trusting myself? And I want to break down the skill sets that I use so that you can see what I use to start closing that gap to rebuild that self-trust. So as I was letting go of that all or nothing mindset, it was really scary because I thought that the all or nothing was what kept me safe by having rules and boundaries. You're on the plan or you're off of the plan. So it can be really scary to say, I don't have any rules. That's a terrifying thing. But what I would start to do is when I would feel that like, oh no, you shouldn't have this, or starting tomorrow, you're not going to have this ever again. I would feel this fear of scarcity start to arise in my body, and I could just bring my hand to my heart and really let my body and my nervous system feel we can have this anytime we want. It's okay. And really breathe that in. And I would probably feel all those parts of me that are very scared in my nervous system from all the past years of when I did restrict my food. And so my mind might be like, we're not going to restrict anymore. But maybe in my subconscious mind and my memories and my nervous system, it's like, yeah, but we have restricted before and it's scary. And so part of rebuilding that trust might be inside of your body where you can feel in your heart, you can feel in your body. Maybe muscles are tense and contracted around fear of not having something. And I can just breathe in and say, it's okay. We can have this again. There's nothing to fear. We don't need to overeat. because we can have it whenever we want. And sometimes that takes practice to do again and again and again until that trust is rebuilt that you really genuinely mean that. So that was like a big part of my practice to letting go of the fear and the scarcity. Now, how did I move my attention from up here to down here? It really just took intentional practices. Most of us live with our attention in our minds, and a lot of it is because that's just what our society teaches us. We do nutrition plans, we do food plans, health plans, diet plans, and it's great to learn information. But if we're only learning information, we're often not encouraged to pay attention to what's happening in here. So too much learning can keep us from experiencing what's happening in here. So all my students in Mastering Mindfulness will tell you that it's not as much about learning, it's a lot more about experiencing their bodies. We practice moving our attention from up here down into our bodies. And when you start moving your attention from up here down into your body, you'll start noticing the different sensations. So right now, if I said to bring your attention to the bottom of your foot, your right foot, and you could maybe you might notice like your skin or whatever's touching your skin, like your sock or the floor. As soon as you moved your attention there, you started feeling the sensations. So that's what we practice. The more we practice making those connections with bringing our attention from up here in our mind down into our bodies, we start to feel more of the sensations again. And that's when you can feel, ooh, boy, I don't really want to keep overeating because it actually doesn't feel good. When you live with your attention in your mind, you're kind of stuck in cravings and you tend to feel numb to your body, and it's harder to honor your body and to really feel that. When your attention is only in your mind, it can feel like a battle. When your attention is in your body, it's easier to say, wow, that doesn't really feel so good in my body. I actually think I'm done with that now. It's so wild because there's so many, this is nothing against GLP-1s, and I'm sure for many people they're so life-changing. But I do think it's very interesting that we're not taught to practice feeling the sensations in our bodies. What would happen if we practiced feeling our hunger and our fullness instead of in understanding what do cravings feel like? What does my hunger feel like? What does my fullness feel like? And practice making that mind-body connection and really genuinely giving ourselves a chance to feel it. So if you feel like you've struggled with overeating or not trusting yourself with food or with cravings, or you're thinking about food all the time and you're wondering like, why am I hungry all the time? Why am I craving food all the time? It's because your attention is up here. So for me, I love these little tiny life moments of where we get to see the progress in action and how free self-trust really feels. So I just kind of want to do an overview and a recap that when you're using an all or nothing mindset, as soon as you take a bite of cookie, you kind of go into that spiral of, oh, well, I already messed up, or there's fear of I won't have it, so you tend to overeat it. It's that mindset alone that can perpetuate the problem. So shifting from an all or nothing mindset to, it's okay, I can have this whenever I want, and feeling the power of that. And then starting to bring your attention from in your mind into your body. I do that through meditations. I have all of my students practice doing meditations where they're bringing their attention from their mind down into their body. And as you practice that awareness of your sensations gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So don't be discouraged if you do it one time and you're like, I can't do it. It takes practice. But through a little bit of practice, I think my meditations were only like 10 minutes long. They weren't long meditations, but just practice of noticing your body, and you can redevelop that trust again. For me, it's been so worth it to be able to eat the banana bread, eat the brownies, take a few bites, and that feeling of sitting back and just like looking out the window as I'm in the car and had a few bites of this banana bread, and to be like, wow, I didn't go into like this guilt, shame, downward spiral, is like, I can trust myself. Wow, look how far I've come. And it's been a journey for me. It wasn't an overnight thing, but doing the work to be able to get there has been so worth it. It's so worth it. And you can trust yourself so much more than what you know. But it is about knowing how to feel those sensations in your body. That's when we trust ourselves, not by living in our minds and, being stuck in cravings. I hope this showed you some possibility today. This is what I guide my students through in mastering mindfulness. Instead of having to avoid food, we redevelop trust with our own bodies. What are my body's sensations? What's my body telling me? And then you never have to restrict your food. You can enjoy it, but do it from a place of connection and trust, and your body can get healthier in an indulgent way that feels like freedom. So I would love to hear if this made sense or if this clicked something for you. Feel free to leave a comment or reach out to me on Instagram. I would love to hear how this lands with you today. And I'll see you in the next episode.